Good evening, everyone. Back on Twitch for some Node-RED development work. For those new joining, I'm going to spend a bit of time sharing some of the development work on Node-RED itself, rather than using Node-RED. So this is working on issues, creating pull requests, reviewing code, whatever might be on the slate, rather than how to use Node-RED or that sort of stuff. So hope you find it interesting. Today we are looking at some CSS issues in the Node-RED editor, which I'll come to in a sec. I should say today I've already done 3 hours of live streaming as part of the OpenJS World event earlier today, and I've just read a chapter of the book to my son without a break. So I've been doing a lot of talking. So we'll see if my voice holds up for another hour of talking through. So do say hi if you're in the chat. Like to know you're there. Otherwise, let's make a start. So I'm going to spend about hopefully just under an hour usually on these things. See where we get to. Hi guys, Julian and Nathaniel, good to see you there. It's always nice to know when people say hi that I'm actually talking to someone in the real world, especially as I look over there and the Twitch dashboard tells me there's no one watching, but the fact people are saying hi means you're there. And Danny's there as well. Hello again. Yes, what is the real world these days? Okay, let's see what's what. There we go, main screen. So working on the 1.1 release, hope is to get it done this week. May spill into next week, just depending on how this week goes. So just mopping up the last few bits and pieces for the release. This issue raised by sorry, mine's gone blank. See, I'm useless with it. Oh, site can't be reached. Oh, that's got me worried now. Am I still connected? Why is it saying that site can't be reached? Is GitHub down? No. Okay, that's working. Why is github.com not working? Yeah, I'm still connected. But GitHub's not responding. Okay. Well, that good job I preloaded this page then. Anyway, we have an issue. So in Node-RED, all the CSS, in time for the 1.0 release, we restructured the CSS in the editor to make it easier to create custom themes for the editor. And one of the first main themes was creating the dark theme, which is sort of the everyone likes to have a dark theme. Yeah, could those guys in the chat, could one of you just try reaching GitHub? Is it just me, or is GitHub having a funny 5 minutes? It'd be nice to know. So what we've got, okay, thanks Steve. Yeah, why is no DNS issues? What's going on? What's going on? It's not what you want. Oh. Is that good? Not going to help, my brain's not with it, having done so much public talking today. Okay. We're just going to crack on. Themes. So the only way that you can do the custom theme is if the CSS is properly structured so that you can generate custom CSS nice and easily with all the colors replaced. And that will only work as long as we don't hard code colors into the source code, because once we hard code into the source code, you can't create a theme. So there are 4 places where we have some colors hard coded, which we're just going to fix up. But I think the reason they are hard coded is because well, for reasons we'll come to, so might need to add in some more CSS than I'd otherwise like to fix up. So if GitHub's not working, I can't follow these links to go and look at these places. So that's all right, we can just fire it up. So the first one is in the projects code. In fact, you can see from this screenshot, if I make that a bit bigger. So it's the prompt for when you want to delete a project. That its colours are just wrong. It's not themed. So let's switch over to Atom. Let's just go back and where do we want to be? We want to be in editor client, source.js, UI projects, projects.js. So projects.js gets us there. And if memory serves, the color we have hard coded is white, and sure enough, so yeah, we're in the function that shows the delete project thing. And in fact, here's a whole stanza of custom CSS, inline CSS, which really shouldn't be in here. I'm not averse to hard coding in little bits of inline padding and margin for positioning. Shouldn't necessarily do that, but I'm less concerned by that. But yeah, typically there'll be a large block of CSS like that in the code at the point where I'm developing it, because I'm not worrying about setting up the CSS properly. I just do it in line, get it right, and then create the style sheet. And obviously in this instance, I've never got around to creating the style sheet. So let's go look at the CSS. So we use Sass to build our CSS, which is good. We want to be in, so we're in the projects area, so there is a semi-sensible structure to how the CSS is all split up. So we want to open up the projects CSS, and then there's a whole ton of stuff in here, and what we're going to do is let's just look through just to see, because I've not touched this code for so long. There probably is a convention for the CSS styles for things around here, and we just want to make sure the stuff we're about to add is going to be at least somewhat consistent. If I pull up, of course I can't show the delete projects prompt because I've only got one project in this workspace. So let's create a new project. Encryption key. Oh, Google and your auto suggestion for passwords. How I despise you. It's like, why do you think you know better than the person writing this page to say, oh, that's a password field. This user must want to enter in whatever password they last used on this URL. It's like, no, it's not it's an encryption key. It's not. Don't autofill it. Anyway, not going to bother with encryption for the moment, but we have ways and means of trying to trick the Chrome auto suggest, and I'm just going to make a note in my to-do list to add it to that dialogue, because if I don't make this note I'll forget and it will annoy me next time. Autofill on project create credential password. Yes, this is my new modern technology of how I keep track of all of those issues you keep telling me about in the beta thread. They get written in a notebook and they get ticked off as I do them. Okay, so right, we've created a project. So now if we pull up the open project, we can now hit the delete button, and there we are now looking at the element that we want to fix up. So if we inspect it, here, if you can make it out, let me make that a bit bigger. Yeah, you can see all the horrible inline CSS. We're going to tidy that up. Okay, so this obscenely long class name, Red UI projects dialog, project list entry, that's the rough naming scheme we're using around here, so we're going to follow that. In fact, if we just search for that in this CSS, because when we add stuff, we want to be vaguely near. In fact, we're going to add it. Are we? Let's just double check. Oh, see, we're not actually inside that element, we're next to it. So I'm just going to call it entry delete confirm, which is a horrendously long CSS class name. A lot of this UI needs kind of revisiting and tidying up, but we'll do that on another day. Where's it gone? There it is. So essentially we want to set the class on this div that we're adding. Good. Then we just steal all of its CSS, dump it in there. Yep. Yeah, there's a bit more we'll tidy up. And then, yeah, grumble. Go from JavaScript to CSS. Just got to do all the reformatting. When it comes to structuring CSS, there's linting we could be doing. There are conventions for the order that you have your CSS styles, which I don't adhere to because I can never remember what they are. Except the one I do kind of remember is you put positional stuff first, then padding, and then decoration. It's something like that. It just helps, in theory, when you've got lots of CSS, to have things in a vaguely consistent order. Oh, this is all quite hacky, but move width up. Okay. And finally, okay, so at this point, we're still creating the div, but we've now given it the class. And there's the class with all the same properties. But we still have white hard-coded, and that's the thing we want to eliminate. So if we open up the colors file, so this is where we defined all the different colors of the Node-RED editor. So we can have some sort of consistency. And this is the file you would create a custom one of to create the different themes for Node-RED. And then we provide a script that generates the CSS for that theme. White is secondary background. There we go. And that's that one fixed. So if I were to change secondary background to FFO, which is RG, what's FFO? Is that yellow? And then reload. Yes, it's yellow. So now you can see everywhere where we use secondary background. Go to open projects, then hit delete. Oh God, we want password. And there you can see it's now, it is yellow. Now arguably it might not want to be yellow, but I'm not going to worry about that. It's picking up the right color. Oh, it's at least themable now. I'm not going to bother with incremental improvements, even though I'm sure there will be some. So let's change that back to white, so I don't accidentally ship a psychedelic version of Node-RED. whilst I look in here, I mean, there's a bit of egregious CSS in there, so let's just get rid of. So we're adding a span with line height of 40 pixels. So we'll get rid of that by adding in one of these dudes. Oops, where did I go? Oh, we don't want to do this. There we go. So that is looking good, and is white space hyphenated in? Yes, it is. Ah, there we go. That is all looking good to me. Then, yeah, I'm not going to worry about that one. I'm not going to worry about. Yes, I am. They both have margin left 20, so both of these buttons. Give them margin left 20. There we go. A bit less CSS in the source code. Good, good. Right, that's that one fixed. Oh, painful to see. Let's see. Does GitHub work for me yet? No, still no GitHub. I'm intrigued. Why can't I see GitHub but everyone else can? Now this is what I realised, it's been too long since I've had to debug network problems and I can't remember what any of that's telling me. I'm sure one of you can look at that and tell me what's going on, but normally at this point I would bounce my Wi-Fi, but I'm sure that would upset the streaming. So let's carry on. Where are we at? So we've done the first one. Next one is in subflows. Let's pull that up. Where are we in? UI subflow around 1169. Yep, so here is some more inline CSS. And some more. So yeah, where are we? We are in cell input type for subflows. Well, if we make that red, I think I know what this is. Let's just refresh. Right, for this one we want to create a subflow. Just deploy, so I don't have to keep creating it. Edit properties. We add an environment variable, and then there it is. So this is the UI for, in the first instance, being able to define environment variables for a subflow, the subflow properties. You can then expand it to create custom UI. So when you edit the instance of the subflow, what UI should be used to allow the user to customize that property. And this custom widget showing the different types of input. For this instance, it's red. We don't want it to be red. We want that to be themable. So, so we are in the subflow stuff. Do we have I don't think we have a subflow CSS because there's not really a lot of custom CSS to do with subflows. They're normally bundled in elsewhere, but we do have editor.scss, which is near enough. In fact, I've already got subflow, and here it is. Subflow MUI row. So this is already CSS to do with this bit of UI. And we are in, what are we in? We're in the See, this is where I've got to name stuff again. Let's just try and look at what have we got here. We've got a lot of generated stuff. So we've got subflow MUI row. Oh, that's right. And then we've got. Bear me whilst I talk to myself and think this through. I see. So, oh, that's right, the UI grid stuff. Oh, I remember spending hours over this. It's all commented out. That's good. So we're going to add a class red UI editor subflow subflow input type. Alright, this isn't necessarily the most interesting stuff, but this is kind of just the slog of. It's not all fast cars and excitement. This is just kind of the grunt work it takes to ship stuff. Now, of course, I'm copy and pasting it with being red still. I think it was white before, wasn't it? And as we discovered, white is our secondary background. Good. Carrying on down, here we have a span. What's this? Select types. I think that's, let me just double check. If I drop down this and deselect everything, then yeah, it's, you can see where it says select types. It's the CSS to knock that text back to a AAA, which do we have? What is AAA in terms of text? Is that one of our standard text colors? Yeah, according to this, AAA is our secondary text color disabled inactive, which is tertiary text color. There it is, which is kind of, it's sort of the placeholder color. Now I know there are definitely accessibility issues with some of the color choices in Node-RED. Some of the elements, the contrast between foreground and background is not great enough. So that is something I want to, we must turn our attention to at some point, but it's not going to be right now. I mean, it's been a long-standing issue that we should have spent time on already, but so what have we got here? Well, that's interesting. So placeholder input. No, it's not interesting. I lied. We're going to call that a type placeholder. And we copy that over. No, we've done the projects. We're in editor. Here we go. And what's the CSS we want? We want color A and padding left 4. We said it was the tertiary. No, not background. Oops, misquote. Okay, that's looking good. We've stripped it off there. Get rid of that. And there we have some text, which should not be there. Okay, so we're going to take a quick detour into Nls Translations. So there we have some text. We shouldn't have any English text messages that appear in the editor hard-coded in. We need to go add that text to our message catalog. and fix it up. So let me. There's a couple of the let's should we do that first? Yes, let's do that now as we are here. I'll just keep spotting bits of CSS that no, we're going to fix this text, otherwise I will forget. So we're going to copy that, and then we open up, is it editor.json? We're not going to edit the Japanese version. Because it lists them in alphabetical order. So when I open the catalogs, I've got to go for us/editor.json to get the right one. So this is the message catalog that contains all of the text that appears in the editor. You really need to do some rationalization in here, but it's like 1,000 entries, which is ridiculous, but that's what it takes, and that's why we don't have translations in lots of languages. And we want to find, there must be a subflow section somewhere. Subflow here. Yeah. No, let's find this text input type must be in here somewhere, and that would be the right thing to put this near. Here we are. Where are we? Are we really just in editor? Okay. No, I've lost off my clipboard the text we wanted to insert. So we want select types. Stick that in. We'll give it a key, select type. Okay, and we are in, I believe, editor dot select type. So yes, Steve, if a message doesn't appear in the catalog for the user's language, it will display the English version instead. Okay, so we wanted editor.select type, and we use the red._ function because that's red._, that's the function that does the message catalog lookup from anywhere within the source code. Now to verify that, unfortunately, that's one thing, the grunt dev task we have isn't set up to restart if you edit a JSON file. It does relint the JSON files, but it doesn't restart Node-RED. But you need to restart to load the new catalog. So thankfully that's nice and quick. If I reload, in fact, we can verify a few things at once. So I've done the CSS and put tertiary text color in, but let's just put in some random color just to confirm we have fixed the problem or fixed the CSS issue. Add a property, expand, input type. If we have none selected, select types. So the text is there and it's in a nice magenta color. So that's all working. So we've done the message catalog fix and the CSS fix. 2 for 1. Bonus. Okay. Let's just refer back to. So there are 2 more in this file around line 1199. Well, there it is. So let's just make that blue temporarily. Where are we? So this is the new credential type. So this is new code in this release where the subflow property can now be declared to be a credential type. So the UI handles it properly, and the value will get stored in the credentials file. Yeah, so I'm going to just turn that blue temporarily. And there was another one. See, this is where I wish. Any luck with GitHub DNS? No. How bizarre. So 1347 was the other one. So, here it is. Spinner type. Okay, well, I'm going to make that yellow. Right, everyone, we have to... So the two things we're hunting down is the spinner type and the credential type. Let's go find them. So just reload to pick up the bright colours I've added. Hey, Softy2K, welcome. So credential type. Yeah, so there, blue background. So it's exactly the same as the input issue that we fixed just now. And spinner, yeah, same again, yellow background. So that's interesting, actually. That does make, yeah. Yeah, let's just go and compare some notes. So for the credential type, this is the CSS. So let's, if I close that, where were we? Editor CSS. Don't know if I hide the minimap. There, just checking whether that looks legible. Yeah, it looks legible to me. Just shout if you can't see what I'm doing. So what if we added this bit of CSS for the background of the other type, setting its background, its height, and its box sizing. Now, what's interesting with this case, so that was okay for the input type, but for the credential type, we're also setting the border radius. And why is that? Well, so there's the input type. If we go to credential type, right. So in fact, you can just make out, yeah. I'll go away one password. I've told you a number of times. So in the input type, you can see the element we're adding is sat here in the middle of the typed input with these buttons on either side. But if I change it to credential type, we no longer have the button on the right hand side, and we set the border radius so it fits in around the edges. It's, yeah. In theory, I ought to be able to set the overflow to stop that being a problem, but I seem to remember I lost a lot of time trying to figure out why that wasn't working and just bumped in the radius to sort it. So what I'm going to do, rather than get rid of all of the CSS for now, I'm going to get rid of these three lines which are common, background, height and box sizing. And we'll add this class we've already defined. Hey, let's reuse it. And then we just apply the border radius on top of it. Again, that could be moved out to the CSS, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. It's somewhat hacky as it is. It's no worse than it was. And then if we go down to the spinner type, which was down here somewhere, and again, background, height and box sizing, same deal, but this time there's no extra ones, so we can get rid of all of them and just set the class. Okay, now just to check that's all sticking, I'll change this color again. Where should we go this time? Off. Add variable, customize its UI. So there we have the cyan credential type, got the right color and the spinner. Good, all done. Set that back. Okay, that's all three of those. One thing we can just do is if I just search for white, I do this sometimes just to look for things that may have left in. I search for the typical colours we use in their hex code. So search for triple F, search for triple E, triple A. We don't have a complicated palette. Okay, that's all good. Have I missed anything? No, I think we're all good. Let's get that committed. So what have we got? We've got the message catalog update, and I will ping our colleagues at Hitachi just to let them know there's a translation needed. We do try and keep the Japanese translations in sync with the English just because of the large Node-RED Japan user community. We have a large pool of people able to help contribute to the Japanese translations. The other languages, unfortunately, we don't have a similar pool of people helping maintain. So, yeah. So in the projects, we've banished all of that in place. Yeah, you know, we've just gone through that. I'm not going to walk through it again. Fix, or not fix, we remove hard-coded CSS. And this fixes, what issue number are we on? 2603. So if you aren't familiar with GitHub and some of the tricks, when you commit a change, the first line should be the succinct summary suitable to going into a changelog. The second line should either be blank, or if you say something like fixes followed hash and a number, or closes, then when this commit merges to master on GitHub, the GitHub master branch, GitHub will automatically close that issue, which is super nice of it. But because we're in the beta, things don't go to the master branch, they go to the dev branch, which is fine. If I git push that now, I can't git push because I can't because I can't reach GitHub for some reason. Okay, I will live with that. I will push it later. Good job I wasn't planning on doing something else on GitHub, but that means I can't also go look at the other issues. Oh well. There we go. That's that issue resolved. Do shout in the chat if there's anything in particular you'd like me to cover. I'll go for a little bit longer. I'd love to know why I can't reach GitHub. Let me just check. I'm reaching over off screen to my... Yeah, see, my other laptop can't reach it either. How strange. What's going on in my home network? Oh well. Yeah, so I mean, shout, is there something you would like me to tackle right now? In terms of the Node-RED beta, let's just fire up the forum. Question, answer. There's a few items. Let's pull up the beta thread. I believe all of the actual true bugs are fixed that have been reported. Colin did mention one around something he's not being able to replicate, around not being able to get rid of the merge flows dialog. I think I might have seen that once, but I don't think it's new. I think it's the runtime, particularly when you have an unknown node, then when that node gets restored, yeah, I don't know, it's weird. Basically the things get out of sync, and it does require a restart of the runtime. But I'm not going to hunt that down now because it's tedious. Hi, www. No, projects are not enabled by default. You still have to enable them in your settings file. It's always been the intention to get to the point where they can be enabled by default, but I don't think they're really quite there yet. I think there's some more work needed at some point, but just, there's a few, want to try and improve a few bits of the usability. Something that is new in 1.1 is they are, well, in fact, already in 1.0 is you don't have to modify your settings file if you want to try projects out anymore. You can do it on the command line 2 ways. With 1.0, it's stalling as I try to remember what it is. There's an environment variable you can set in here somewhere. Node-RED enable safe mode. There we go. Node-RED enable projects. So if I did Node-RED enable projects equals false, because here I have it enabled, then I can do where am I? How can I start? Let's do npm start. If I do it that way, then it's temporarily set it to false. So enabling it, if you didn't want to edit your settings file, you can set it to true. So that is kind of handy if you want to set it on a Docker container without having to edit your settings file, for example. The other way you will now be able to do it in Node-RED 1.1 is new command line flag. Is that right? Yeah. So you can use the -d option. Sorry, I scrolled too quickly there. You can overwrite values in your settings file on the command line. So -d, and then hopefully it prints it out here. So there we go. So that, I mean, that's the value it already was, but again, that as an option, the -d option is handy if you want to temporarily modify your logging level. Log console.level equals trace. Then you can do it on the command line rather than having to edit your settings file each time. So that's useful. Might be useful. Could be useful. Who knows? Where was I? I was looking at the beta feedback. There's I have to say beta 3 has been much more successful than beta 2 was. Beta 2 was a bit of a mess, and I apologize for that. So we've fixed up some of the logic around line breaks in node labels. So there we go. That's something I can try and squeeze into the next 10 minutes. Let me just have a quick drink. So fire that up. Okay. So very briefly, nodes can now, their labels, if you put \n followed by a space, then the node label now spans multiple lines. And this is the fix that has gone in today. It's not just \n, as you might expect if you recognize that as the new line character. It is explicitly \n followed by a space, which means if you wanted to, you could have a path, and this is real world feedback for Windows paths. If you had, for example, the file node, it'd be perfectly reasonable to have the full path to the file, and if you're doing stuff with Node-RED, it's entirely reasonable that you might have a \n. in the middle of the label. Well, that now works without having to do any special handling. The main deal was we didn't want nodes that were perfectly fine pre 1.1 to suddenly change their appearance because someone happened to have \n in the middle. But it seems reasonable and less likely to cause a clash to say \n followed by a space will trigger the new line. If you desperately want that, then you can add an extra slash and then it goes back to as you would expect. But, and this was the other issue I wanted to fix, and I'm just going to say hello there. Oh, 1Password, I've told you to stop bugging me on localhost, but for whatever reason you still are. Anyway, if I hit deploy. So the feedback, in fact, Dave pointed out to me, and I'd noticed it but not really twigged. And in fact, okay, here's a quick poll of those paying attention in the stream. Given this node, let's add a debug node with a multiple line. Hello, Twitch. Right, given these two nodes, which are taller because they've got a line break in, the port is nicely centered. However, on however tall the node is, should the button on the other edge be centered, or is it okay to leave it stuck at the top of the node? What do people think? Centered or it's fine? Now, yeah. Now the interesting thing. Okay, so we've got a vote for fine at the top from Julian. That's also good because I don't know what the delay is between me speaking and you seeing it. So that was only about, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds. Okay. Steve wants the button on the fence. Okay. Well, you see, if we're going to put one in the middle, then they're all going to be in the middle. And we're not going to make the button bigger. We're not going to add a setting for it. Yeah, I'm slightly on the fence about it, I have to admit. But you know what we can do? Let's see what it would look like if it was centered. Yeah, I know what you mean about... yeah, there's just something about the need for everything to line up. Let's see. So one of the reasons Beta 2 had so many visual glitches is I completely rewrote or refactored a whole bunch of the code for rendering the view to get rid of a lot of the use of the D3 library. D3 is great, it's convenience, it just adds lots of small functions in the code path for doing lots of things, whereas replacing that with native browser calls that are supported on all the browsers, it just massively reduces the number of function calls needed, which, considering this code, if you've selected all the nodes in your workspace and you're moving them, this function is so hot in terms of how much it gets called. Every optimization we can make is a good thing. So there's still patches of D3, so there's still more that could be done to improve the efficiency, but in my testing I had a flow on my old laptop which was behaving very sluggishly at the time. I had two tabs with about 300 nodes on each, and it was taking on average about 5 seconds to switch tabs, and after these refactorings it took about 2 seconds. So 2 seconds is still quite a long delay when you're waiting, but it's quite a lot better than 5. So that alone was worthwhile, even though Beta 2 ended up having a few little hiccups. So button group, we are looking at the vertical position of button group. So by default, here you can see we set the transform on the button group to be either 94 or -25, which is based on is it a left-hand button or a right-hand button, and then its vertical transformation is just 2. Okay. Now, if we just go double check, oops, don't comment out, that'd be bad. Oh, I've forgotten my keyboard shortcuts. Muscle memory's failing me. There we are. So let's just quickly go check flow.scss. So flow.scss is the style for all of the elements in the main workspace. Flow button. Okay, it doesn't have a height. Where does it get its height from? Interesting. Oh, there we go. So, of course, yes, it's the group doesn't have a height. It's set to node height -4, and node height, interestingly, is not the height of the node. Node height is just a constant default height for a node. It's the height a node is unless it's bigger, if that makes sense. So where are we at? Oh, we're in node enter. So this is the code that gets run when this element is being added to the workspace. So all the new stuff gets all this code, and it sort of creates the base elements for everything. Then once it's added everything, it then does node.each and then iterates over everything, and anything that's dirty it needs redrawing. It then does more work to reposition. So basically this is stuff that might happen whilst the node is already in the workspace. So you've edited it, you've moved it, you've undone something and it's shifted, whatever that might be. So somewhere in here, updating on the ports. Here we are. So here we set, is it button group? Yeah, button group. Here we set the transform attribute, because there are cases when a node could move from a left align to a right align, or it's a toggle button. Either way, yeah, so that's how that works. But we still have this 2. What we're going to do is change that to have a Y property, and we'll set that to 2 by default. What did we say? It was node height -4. So the height of the button is node height -4. So what we want to do is take the height of the node, which is d.h, minus node height -4, which is the height of the button, divided by we want that. So it's d.h is the actual height minus node height -4, which is the height of the button. So that's the overflow on either side, and we want it even, so we divide that by 2. And that's y. So instead of a 2, we stick in y. Let's have a look. So if we refresh, let's deploy that just so we have those buttons. We have to recreate them. And there are the buttons centered. Just to confirm. So that looks good. And if I add in it stays centered. Okay, so Julian's gone for a yuck response. I mean, there is something about the button still lines up with the icon. There is something, the fact that it stays lined up with the port. So in terms of sort of the functional interactive area, it stays in a line. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we are dealing in edge case here. I'm not a fan of having new lines in the node labels, but try a full height button. That's madness. Yeah, I think the full height button could easily get... I wonder if that might look silly, Steve, but you know, you've thrown me the gauntlet and I suppose it'd be rude not to try it. So if we're going to do a full height button, then we want... leave this here for the moment. We still want it to be 2. What I just need to go and remind myself is how we set the height. So we want to set the background height, and right, we want button group background and button group button height. And one is -4, one is -12. So this button group button set attribute height dh minus what do we say, 12? No, -4. No, that's button, that's 12. And button group background is dh minus 4. Oops. Let's have a look, see what you think. Oh, that's not worked at all. Cannot set attribute of undefined. That means I've mucked something up. I should ship it if it's not working that well. Ah, yeah. Double underscore. Well, it's a look. Yeah. I think that looks disproportionately not so good. It's definitely worth the try, Steve. Thanks for the suggestion, but oh well, Julian's interested. Okay. Not terrible. Yeah. I just don't... yeah. Proportional height. What do you mean, Steve? You mean make it slightly bigger, just not the whole whack? Yeah, I have to agree, Julian. I think I prefer it at the top. It's one of those things I'm kind of inclined to leave it alone because no one else has flagged it. We've tried out the two other logical options. Neither quite sit well with me. Yeah, Danny, you're right. I spotted the \n in the notification as well. Well spotted. 70% height with a minimum. Oh man, that's you know what? Just for the sake of Right, var button height is math.max, node height minus 4 being the minimum, or d.h times 0.7. Okay, so then y becomes d dot, let's do this in the right order, button height that order, then y becomes still want to divide that by 2, and then these two heights want to be what does it want to be? Well, this one wants to be that, and this one, because we want the borders to be consistent, we wanted that minus 8, I think. Well, I mucked the maths up on that one, didn't I? Where did I go wrong? I often ask myself that. Oh, yes. No. Math.max of node height minus 4 and the actual height, 70% of the actual height. Oh, yeah, because I don't need all this. That's better. I was scaling it twice. I think that's better than the full height one. It feels more proportional to have it do that. But there's a bit more of a fundamental thing of, should we be mucking around with this at all? So if we set believe I'm right in if I do that and that. Oops, semicolon in the right place. Not that it really matters. If I think I do this, we're back to where we started. See, my worry is this inject node just looks silly. Oh, what can of worms we open. Yeah, so good points in the chat. So the average is going to be, typically it's one line and we shouldn't lose sleep over this. That's, the reality of this. Max out the bottom height at 3 times the height. We can get many of them. Yeah, so Julian's quite right. I mean, that's where I'm ending up is, frankly, just leave it be. The other option, just to quickly try it, is to make it more proportional, and let's try 50% just out of interest, but leave it, don't center it, because frankly I think it's the only combination we've not looked at. No, not doing that. Though that is interesting, because in the 2-line case, the button is actually only yeah. So you know what, guys? I'm going to leave it as it was. We are going, and again, this is in hot path, so I'm going to leave the code in. I'm going to not delete the code. I will comment it out, and I'll comment it out doing something. Comment it out doing the right thing. But because this is hot path code, I'm not going to leave needless calculations in the code. Yeah, that just takes us back to where we were. Yeah, I'm going to leave it like that for now. I don't think Dave's watching, so I will share with him those screenshots and say why I think we're just going to leave it as is. But at least you're all primed if we do another beta, which I don't think we are. When we do this release, you can all complain at the position of the button and raise issues. Okay. Well, it's 9:10 already. I've been going longer than I planned, but I hope that was helpful. Hope it was useful. Thank you for your participation. It makes life easier getting that feedback. Yeah, so hopefully we'll get the beta out towards the end of this week. Not the beta, the actual release done. Yeah, basically my time is now switching to documentation. There's a bunch of cool stuff in this release, but it's only cool stuff if people know it exists, and it's all well and good. Yeah, we learn. It's less so for you guys because you follow along, you read the beta release notes, you talk to me, you find out about this stuff. It's more the users who come to Node-RED for the very first time in a month's time. They don't read the release blog posts. They don't, they install Node-RED for the very first time and they take it as it comes. And we want to make sure the documentation helps them. Steve, go on. What are you saying? I had one other thought on the button. Make the icon the button and remove the protrusion. No, we wanted to keep the button as quite an explicit thing, and not muck around with the icon. Sort of visually, it becomes less obvious. Plus, then it's hard to do the toggle button type of effect that the debug node uses if if it's a inline sort of the icon button. So okay, we're going to wrap it up there. I'm going to go have a cup of tea. Great, thanks everyone, thanks for joining. I say this usual schedule, 8 o'clock 8 p.m. British summertime here in the UK every Monday. Sometimes I'll do random streams through the week when there's something interesting to do, less so to live stream for people to watch in real time, but because we back these up to YouTube and I want to get a nice collection of material on YouTube for people to be able to dip through. So do subscribe to Twitch notifications if that's your thing. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if that's your thing. Hit me up on Slack or Discourse with any ideas for topics to cover on here. I think once we get 1.1 out of the door, I'll be able to switch a bit more to doing some new feature development for 1.2, and we can talk a bit more about that as we get there. All right then, I've just realised I'm sat in darkness here. Can you guys actually see me? Let's switch my webcam. There we are. Oh, I'm a bit blurry. There we go. Great. Well, have a good rest of your days, however much that might be today, and speak to you next time. See you later.